working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's program. We begin tonight in Hawaii, where a state of emergency has been declared in the wake of a devastating wildfire. The ferocity of the flames has driven residents to extraordinary measures, as some have leaped into the ocean to escape the advancing inferno. Our team in Hawaii will report. Startling information has emerged from the UN Children's Fund today, revealing that a staggering 76% of children under 18 in South Asia are enduring extreme heat conditions. U.S. President Joe Biden has revealed his upcoming journey to Vietnam, aimed at enhancing relations with Hanoi and countering China's influence in the region. Meanwhile, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is set to embark on a significant diplomatic journey this week. Beijing confirmed that Wang will undertake visits to Singapore, Malaysia, and Cambodia, aiming to foster stronger connections within the region. Good evening. We begin tonight in Hawaii, where a state of emergency has been declared in the wake of a devastating wildfire. The ferocity of the flames has driven residents to extraordinary measures, as some have leaped into the ocean to escape the advancing inferno. This massive firestorm has been fueled by the distant fury of a hurricane wreaking havoc on both Maui and the Big Island. Homes have been engulfed, forcing hundreds to evacuate their properties, and the flames have shown no mercy, leaving much of a beloved tourist town in ruins. In the midst of this chaos, the Coast Guard has played a crucial role executing daring water rescues for those who sought refuge in the sea. Our dedicated team is on the ground in Hawaii. Let's turn to Alfred Asenas for the report. Alfred.
With fires of this magnitude, it is sad but not surprising casualties would mount. In this case, up to 6 people were lost in this tragedy, according to Maui County Mayor Richard Bizen, but emphasized that search and rescue efforts are still ongoing.
And we are still in a search and rescue mode. And so I don't know what will happen to that number. We've had many dwellings, businesses, structures that have been burnt, many of them to the ground, mostly in our Lahaina.
Meanwhile, up to 20 people have been hospitalized because of serious injuries related to the fires, and the medical facilities are continuing to support, but there are concerns that they could also be strained of resources. We wanted to make an update or correction from our written report yesterday about the 12 people that had to jump into the water off of Lahaina. There were actually 14 people, 2 of them children, who thankfully were reunited later with their families. So the Coast Guard rescued these people who reportedly jumped into the water to escape the growing flames and intoxicating fumes that was already engulfing the historic city of Lahaina, an oceanside town with a lot of history, which used to be the hub for the whaling industry, and at some point was the capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii back in the 19th century. Now, compared to yesterday, today there's a bit of relief, a bit of good news, because even though you can still feel the wind still blowing around here in Oahu, the winds overall have weakened a bit today, and which paved the way for helicopters and other air assets to be deployed to support the containment of these wildfires. As Major General Ken O'Hara of the Hawaii National Guard emphasized yesterday, everything was postured to go out and fly to Maui, but conditions back then were not favorable for these air assets.
It was very difficult because of the conditions last night, the high winds and the fire. We really don't have all of the details on exactly how many structures are damaged, but we do know, power is out, they're having problems with water.
Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., President Joe Biden has acknowledged and has been briefed on the ongoing developments here in Hawaii and has expressed sympathies and pledged support to residents here, and has also specified federal assets such as military equipment and air platforms to supplement what's already here in the state, and has also pledged to support some more resources by the Department of Agriculture in rebuilding the industries on Maui as well as the Big Island. Now, the state government is planning to fly about 4,000 people, mostly tourists, from Maui to here on Oahu to be housed temporarily in the Hawaii Convention Center near Waikiki. Ironically, that was the place where we had some coverage of a more celebratory event. This time, it has a more critical purpose of providing temporary shelter to displace the tourists out of Maui and even possibly the Big Island.
Well, we kind of realized that 4 a.m. when the electrical, everything just shut off. It got hot. We hunkered down until like 12, I want to say, the first fire started by behind the little road. Not too sure about that, but then the winds picked up. Everything just flew our way. Apartment complexes right above the aquatic center. So we thought we were okay, but then the wind came, the gas stations blew up, everything caught fire by the brush, and then we just had to evacuate.
The gas station. During a press conference, Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke acknowledged that she and her staff were completely caught off guard by the size and the impact of these fires that have been prevailing on the eastern part of the state.
When we are preparing for the hurricane, we expect rain. Sometimes we expect floods. We never anticipated in this state that a hurricane, which did not make impact on our islands, will cause this type of wildfires. Wildfires that wiped out communities, wildfires that wiped out businesses, wildfires that destroyed homes. We are learning. Anytime there's a disaster, anytime there's things like this that happen to our community, that shake our community, it's the community and it's our families and it's our people, it's our ohana that help each other. And this is a time we need help. We need to stand together. We need to be brave for each other. But at the same time, it's just with sadness and so we are just struck by the devastation felt on Maui.
Already dubbed as Hawaii's worst natural disaster since Hurricane Iniki that slammed the Garden Isle of Kauai in September 1992, the battle to contain these wildfires is still far from over, and the road to recovery and reconstruction is yet to begin. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Alfred Asenas, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
An important news update. Here are the latest developments. Airlines have canceled numerous flights as Tropical Storm Kanun moves off Japan's southern coast towards South Korea. The storm, previously classified as a typhoon, has triggered evacuations and raised concerns across the region. South Korea initiated the evacuation of tens of thousands at the World Scout Jamboree, which had already been affected by a heat wave. The storm's impact has been felt in Japan's Kyushu region, where heavy rain has caused power outages, and the Japan Meteorological Agency warns of potential mudslides and flooding. Japan Airlines and All Nippon Airways have canceled hundreds of flights, affecting thousands of passengers. The U.S. military's Joint Typhoon Warning Center has reclassified Kanun as a tropical storm with wind gusts of up to 130 kilometers per hour. Now, the storm has led to disruptions in Japan's transportation networks. The Shinkansen bullet train service and various local trains were halted or canceled, impacting travel across the region. South Korea is bracing for Kanun's landfall with flight and ferry suspensions. The capital, Seoul, has raised its crisis alert level to the highest as authorities anticipate significant impact. South Korea's presidential office is also working on an emergency typhoon watch. Interior Minister Lee Sang-min emphasized preemptive evacuations and safety measures in high-risk areas. Another typhoon named Lan is forming in the Pacific, and the Japanese Meteorological Agency predicts Lan to move northwest towards Honshu, Japan's main island, in the coming days. And startling information has emerged from the UN Children's Fund, or UNICEF, today, revealing that a staggering 76% of children under 18 in South Asia are enduring extreme heat conditions. This statistic is significantly higher than the global average, where only 1 in 3 children faces such conditions. UNICEF's research highlights the severity of the situation, with a distressing 83 days or more each year, registering temperatures exceeding 35 degrees Celsius for these young individuals. This relentless exposure to extreme heat leaves them vulnerable to severe illnesses and can even hinder their mental development, especially among infants. The organization underscores that children struggle to adapt to temperature fluctuations as swiftly as adults, as their bodies struggle to dissipate excess heat. This vulnerability can lead to critical health issues, raising alarm for the future well-being of these young lives. UNICEF's report resonates with previous findings in 2021 that pinpoint Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Maldives, and Pakistan as countries where children are at an extremely high risk due to the consequences of climate change. As temperatures soar globally, these regions bear the brunt of its impact. The World Meteorological Organization has revealed that July is poised to become the hottest month ever documented on a global scale. And we're following a developing story that has taken a serious turn. A Utah man who had made threats against President Joe Biden was shot and killed by FBI agents today, just hours before the president's scheduled visit to the western state. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has confirmed that the incident occurred as special agents attempted to serve arrest and search warrants at a residence in Provo, situated south of Salt Lake City. While the Bureau has not disclosed the identity of the deceased, citing an ongoing investigation, federal prosecutors in Utah have named him as Craig Robertson in a filed complaint. According to the complaint, the man in his early 70s identified himself as a MAGA Trumper and had made repeated threats against President Biden and other prominent figures via social media posts. And one such post read, "I hear Biden is coming to Utah, cleaning the dust off the M24 sniper rifle. Welcome, buffoon-in-chief." The complaint further revealed threats directed at Vice President Kamala Harris and U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Shockingly, there were calls for presidential assassination, with a post stating the time is right for a presidential assassination or two, first Joe, then Kamala. The man had also targeted Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who has filed charges against former President Donald Trump. His social media posts included pictures of an extensive gun collection featuring a self-automatic rifle he referred to as the Democrat Eradicator. President Biden is currently on a visit to the western U.S. and is set to fly from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Salt Lake City later in the evening. And while the U.S. Secret Service responsible for the president's protection acknowledges that the FBI's investigation involving this individual from Utah, no further details have been provided at this time. President Marcos Jr. addressed an ongoing dispute regarding a grounded Philippine Navy vessel in the disputed South China Sea. His statements come in response to China's recent claims that Manila had assured them of removing the BRP Sierra Madre stranded on 2nd Thomas Shoal in the Spratly Islands. The BRP Sierra Madre, intentionally grounded by the Philippines in 1999 to counter China's assertiveness in the region, has long been a focal point of tension between the two nations. Tensions escalated over the weekend when Chinese Coast Guard vessels reportedly blocked and used water cannons against boats on a resupply mission to Filipino Marines stationed on the ship.
But I'm not aware of any agreement that the Philippines should remove from its own territory its own ship, the BSP Sierra Madre, from the Ayungin Shore. And let me go further. If there does exist such an agreement, I rescind that agreement as of now.
The Chinese embassy in Manila refrained from immediate comments on President Marcos's remarks. Filipinos currently employed in Myanmar under existing contracts have been granted the opportunity to return to the Philippines for a vacation. The Department of Migrant Workers announced this significant move on Wednesday. After proper registration, these individuals will have the option to return to Myanmar. This advisory was issued on August 9 following the Department of Foreign Affairs' recent adjustment of the crisis alert level in Myanmar. The country's crisis alert level has been lowered from level 4, which is evacuation, to level 2, restricted phase. Based on assessments conducted by the DFA and the Philippine Embassy in Yangon, the DMW highlighted that Filipino workers in Myanmar are predominantly concentrated in major cities such as Yangon, Naypyidaw, and Mandalay. Now, these areas have been identified as providing safe and stable working conditions for these workers. However, it's important for our fellow countrymen to exercise caution. They are strongly advised to steer clear of crisis-prone regions within Myanmar. The DMW emphasized that the accessibility of assistance from both Philippine and Myanmar authorities in such areas during emergencies cannot be guaranteed. A recent report from Agence France Presse sheds light on a distressing case involving an Indonesian maid, further exposing the gaps in domestic worker protection within the country. This incident has prompted renewed discussions on safeguarding the rights and well-being of domestic workers, both locally and abroad. Seti Kotima, hailing from Central Java, embarked on a journey to Jakarta last year after searching a maid job she had discovered on Facebook. Now, her intention was to provide financial support to her family, but her employment took a grim turn, subjecting her to months of torment by her employer.
Saya direndam air panas. Lama kemudian saya dirantai 2 kaki, tangan kaki sama sebadan sampai leher pun diikat pakai rantai. Sampai diborgol, dijedotin ke tembok lantai. Makan tidak beraturan, makan sehari sekali. Kalau masih lapar suruh makan kotoran anjing, sama terus minum air kencing anjing. Sama diperlakukan sama mereka orang juga. Saya satu badan dibalurin sambal, satu cobek udah beberapa kali. Terus sekarang membekas, masih berasa gatel, terus sakit, kepala sering sakit-sakitan juga mengenang kejadian yang lalu.
Now 24 years old, Kotiman carries the physical and emotional scars of her ordeal, visible burn marks along her legs, and a lingering limp. The lack of comprehensive laws leaves more than 4 million individuals, primarily women, vulnerable to various forms of abuse. In a recent development, Kotiman's affluent 70-year-old employer in South Jakarta was sentenced to 4 years in prison for physical abuse. Now, this case has sparked a conversation about the broader issue of worker protection within the region or within the nation. The absence of a comprehensive domestic worker bill in Indonesian law has persisted for nearly 2 decades, prompting activists to criticize the government for its perceived reluctance to address this pressing concern. Presently, maids are not formally classified as workers, leaving them operating within an informal and unregulated labor sector.
Undang-Undang Ketenagakerjaan Undang-Undang 13 tahun 2003 itu terjadi suatu hal yang sangat fundamental, diskriminatif gitu. Orang yang bekerja itu hanya pada sektor barang dan jasa. Mereka para pekerja di sektor domestik seperti pekerja rumah tangga ini, di sektor sosial itu tidak diakui sebagai pekerja.
And even if the proposed legislation were to advance, its impact would primarily benefit those recruited by agents to work abroad, according to advocates.
Masih berlanjut berjuang untuk mendapatkan keadilan seadil-adilnya untuk bagi saya PRT dan PRT lainnya. Dan mendapatkan RUU PPRT juga segera disahkan biar nggak ada korban lagi khotimah berlanjutnya, jangan sampai. Cukup terakhir kalinya saja di saya nggak pengen PRT lain kayak teman pekerja saya juga yang lain.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is set to embark on a significant diplomatic journey this week. Beijing confirmed that Wang will undertake visits to Singapore, Malaysia, and Cambodia, aiming to foster stronger connections within the region. Returning to his post last month after the unexpected departure of his predecessor Qin Gang, Wang's itinerary includes travel to these 3 countries from Thursday today to Sunday, as stated by the Chinese Foreign Ministry. With the intention to enhance strategic communication, the Foreign Ministry articulated China hopes to strengthen strategic communication with the 3 Southeast Asian countries through this visit. China's engagement with Southeast Asia has been marked by complexities driven by its claims over the majority of the South China Sea. These assertions stand in contrast to competing claims from other nations such as Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has revealed his upcoming journey to Vietnam, aimed at enhancing relations with Hanoi and countering China's influence in the region. During his address in New Mexico on Tuesday, Biden emphasized Vietnam's desire to transform the nature of their relationship into a partnership. The U.S. and Vietnam have been forging increasingly closer trade links while both harbor concerns over China's escalating dominance in the region. In April, the U.S. and Vietnam pledged to elevate their diplomatic relations during the visit of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken en route to a group of 7 foreign ministers meeting in Japan.
We've had for the last 10 years this comprehensive partnership that has created an incredibly strong foundation of cooperation across many different areas. And as a result, we think this is a good moment to go even further, and by that...
The South China Sea, historically a focal point of tensions between China and Vietnam, is widely regarded as a potential powder keg. Many harbor concerns that a miscalculation or unfortunate incident could trigger a military conflict. In the previous year, President Biden, alongside leaders from Australia, Brunei, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, unveiled the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, in Tokyo during a pivotal moment of his visit to the region. This declaration stood as a cornerstone of Biden's engagement in the continent. President Marcos Jr. confirmed his forthcoming participation in the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC Summit, scheduled for November this year. During a courtesy call from the U.S. ASEAN Business Council at Malacanang, President Marcos expressed his anticipation for the summit, set to unfold in San Francisco, California, from November 12 to the 18th. Now, this year, the U.S. states or the U.S. takes the helm as host for the APEC leaders meeting. President Marcos's earlier visits to the U.S. were notable. In September of the preceding year, he addressed the UN General Assembly in New York. Subsequently, he embarked on a state visit, meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. The president highlighted the strides made in bolstering bilateral relations between the Philippines and the U.S.
By shoring up our individual and collective capabilities, we are able to advance our countries as well as the Indo-Pacific region's security, stability, and economic prosperity. As a testament to the positive momentum in our bilateral relations, President Biden and I have identified concrete steps to ensure that our alliance and partnership remains relevant, responsive to current emerging challenges in the defense, security, and economic sphere.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.